Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here. Today I have a video that's sharing 3 cards that I've created with one die. It's the My Favorite Thing Centerpieces Frame Lovebirds die, and I just wanted to show some unique ways that you can use this die with different mediums to get 3 totally different looks. So for the first card I'm going to be using glitter paper. And you can see the die here. You have the main piece at the top there, which is the main die part. And then they also provide you with the birds as well as the leaves so that you can go ahead and cut those out separately if you want to be able to layer them. So I've picked some colors of glitter cardstock, and I just want to show you the Die Cuts with a View 6x6 glitter stacks. This is the coarser glitter paper, so I don't know if you can see very well in the video here, but the paper here is a little bit thicker and the glitter is kind of more chunky, I guess you could say. It's a little bit rougher, and the glitter stays pretty well put, but it does rub off a tiny bit on the coarser paper. This is the Glitzy Glitter 6x6 paper pad. There's this one here as well as a pastel one, and this one here is thinner and the glitter is more fine in the paper. So there is a difference between the two types of glitter paper. So for this card here I'm going to be using the more coarse glitter. So I picked out some colors from some various pads. There's I think about maybe 4 different pads available, and I just kind of decided what colors I wanted to use, and I cut out the main part of the die with the brown glitter paper because I want to have a border on the top and bottom as well as have all the tree area. To fill in the sky area, I'm just taking another piece of glitter paper, the blue, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the same full die out so that I can piece in the pieces that I took out of the brown cutout. And I also used the red and the green glitter paper and used the bird and leaf dies that I showed you earlier, and just went ahead and cut those out separately. And the leaf die is great because it cuts out exactly enough leaves to cover all of the leaves in the actual die. So now that I have everything cut out and I'm ready to assemble it, I'm just taking a piece of typewriter paper and adhering all of the die cut pieces directly on top. So I first adhered the brown piece, and I'm just going to go ahead and add all of the sky pieces inside the white area, which is fully covered in adhesive because I completely covered the area first. And they just fit in perfectly. You just go ahead and figure out which pieces go where and just go ahead and push those in, and they will completely align in perfectly, and it takes no time at all. And then once I have all of those little pieces in there, I'm going to go ahead and adhere the birds and the leaves to the branch areas. Now because they're already in the die cut in the brown, I'm going to be adhering these directly on top of the brown glitter paper. And to do that I'm going to use glossy accents, mainly because glitter paper is a little bit different than just normal cardstock, and I want a good heavy adhesive so that I know that nothing is going to come off once I have everything completed. So now you can see there I just went ahead and added a little bit of glossy accents to each leaf. You don't need a lot, you just need a tiny dab and it will completely hold those leaves on no problem. And now I'm just going ahead with my quick stick tool, which is a great tool to not only pick the pieces up with the sticky end, but also to use the other end to kind of shift them around to get them into the position you want, which is another great thing about using a wet adhesive. It just allows you a little bit more time to get everything fully where you want it. So now I hope you can see all that great glitter there. The piece is completely finished, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim down the top and bottom so that I can adhere this onto a card base. And now you see there I have it already adhered on. I just went ahead and cut the top and bottom a little bit shorter than it was. I didn't want a really big border, and then adhered it onto the card front. Now to put my sentiment on, I'm going to be using this Get Well Wishes sentiment set from My Favorite Things, and I'm going to be using this on all 3 cards. So for this one here I chose to use the Sending Get Well Wishes, and I'm just going to stamp that onto the card with VersaFine Black Onyx ink. This is by far my favorite ink for any kind of sentiment stamping. It gives a really great crisp impression. And now I have that stamped on there. And to finish this card off here, I'm going to go ahead and round all 4 corners with my 1/4 inch corner rounder with my corner chomper. And then that'll complete this version that I've created, which is the glittery card, and I've just used paper to piece back the die cut together. And now moving on to my next card, I'm going to be doing a little bit different. This is probably going to be one of the more simple cards that I'm going to create. And this one here is, I just wanted to create like a silhouette look with the die cut. So I'm not going to be doing a whole lot with the die cut piece, but I am going to be creating a watercolor background to kind of look like a sunset is kind of what I'm going for. So I'm just using some Tim Holtz Distress markers. And I'm just going to go ahead and kind of swipe those across my watercolor paper. I'm using Tim Holtz watercolor paper, and I'm coloring on the rougher side. If you look at this paper, one side is a little bit smoother and then one side has more of a textured pattern to it, and I just thought that I liked the texture because I'm not going to be doing any stamping or anything on this piece, so it's completely fine if it's a little bit more rough and not as smooth as the other side. So I just kind of went ahead and put some red at the bottom and then added some orange around the red area and then finished the top part off with some yellows. And I'm just taking my Tim Holtz water brush, this is the broad end one, and I'm just kind of wiping it across the different colors just to kind of get the color moving. And then once I have that done, I'm just going to take a water spritzer and completely spritz the whole area to make the colors blend even more together. And I just wanted to show I have two different versions here. I did one with more orange at the bottom and one with more red. And I ended up liking the one with the orange on the bottom more versus the red one. So that's the one I ended up deciding to use. So I let that dry, and then I'm just going to take a piece of black cardstock, and this is what I'm going to die cut the actual die from. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this through my die cut machine. And then once I'm finished, my plan is to put the sentiment directly on the black cardstock piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I have enough of the background area color to fit under the die, which I did. And then I'm just going to stamp my sentiment onto the black piece with Versamark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink that you can use for embossing. And I'm just using my embossing powder tool just to make sure that I don't get any embossing powder where I don't want it. And I'm adding Hero Arts white embossing powder to the sentiment, which for this one I chose the Feel Better Soon sentiment. And then I went ahead and heat embossed that, added some wet adhesive to the back area of the piece, and then adhered it directly on. And my camera died before I got to finish this whole card, so you'll see it completely finished a little later in the video. Now for the last card, sorry, excuse me, I decided to do something a little bit different. So I went ahead and die cut the same piece from watercolor paper once again. And I also die cut it so that the finished piece would be on the rougher side of the watercolor paper, just because, like I said before, I'm not doing any stamping on it, so I like the texture that the rougher side provides. For this one here, I'm actually going to be painting on it. So I'm just picking out some of my Tim Holtz Distress paints, and this is the Gathered Twigs, which is what I'm going to use for the tree branch. And I'm just using a small paintbrush and just going ahead and going through the whole die cut piece in the center and adding my paint on. And I am just going to do all of the branch areas with the brown, and then I'm going to switch over to Mowed Lawn Distress Paint and do all of the leaf areas. And once it dries, if you feel like it's not dark enough in color, you can definitely go back and add more paint on top, and it will intensify that color until you get it to the point where you want it. And now to finish this piece off, I'm going to go ahead and take all of the sky pieces and paint those with my Broken China Distress Paint. And I'm also going to take the die cut birds and die cut separate birds than the ones that are included in the main die cut, and I'm going to paint those with the Picked Raspberry. And now you can see here, this is the completed card. Once everything was painted and had completely dried, I just went ahead and put this all back together like I did with the glitter card. I just added it to paper with adhesive on it and just kind of repositioned everything back together. And then to add the sentiment, I used archival ink since I was stamping on paint. So that's my 3 cards, just a fun way to show 3 different unique ways to use one die with paint, as well as a fun silhouette scene, and then the glitter paper that I used to paper piece it back together. So I hope this gives you some ideas to use a die in more ways than one, and thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.